I'd like to introduce Operator8, a horror survival action game set in space playing out on the moon Triton, where an alien hive mind has captured the space station. Doom 3 and Deadspace are my main inspirations, but the secondary ones are Fear, The Darkness, and Clive Barker's Jericho. I'm making my game with elements and inspirations drawn from each of these. Operator8 isn't an easy game, and you'll need to manage your energy and resources well if you want to survive. In Operator8, you play as an assassin of aliens, an elite mercenary with a special set of skills and a nearly unmatched legacy. You are one of the 10 legendary operators, and your latest mission awaits. A mining and preservation space station on the moon Triton is overrun with an alien force of elite capacity. A hive mind controls these forces, and they have slaughtered the entire base. It is unknown why they attacked this base, but intelligence believes it has something to do with the mystical crystals being mined on the moon and sold to the highest bidder. The defenses have been taken over and everything will be against you. Can you single-handedly destroy these alien forces and the hive mind that guides them? The credit will be unmatched. You'll get paid for each kill. Are you ready? Many secrets and stories await you. So, that's the premise of the game. Let me get into the history of how and why I ended up making it and what it is exactly. Stay with me. The first devlog basically serves as an introduction into the world of Operator8. Operator8 has been in development for around 2.5 years now and has been in early access for around 8 months as well. I am actively working on the game and will continue to do so until it is finished. I expect to work on it for at least another 6 months, depending on allocated working time. Devlogs are usually made a couple of weeks or days after a portion of a game has been completed, I know, but I'm doing it a little bit differently with this project. I need to get more wish lists for the project and want to build up to at least a semi-successful launch. Right now I have around 2,700 wish lists and I need to be at around 5,000 for my goals. I've been working hard on this game for many years, so I want to create some buzz around it. Hopefully you like the game. If you do, please consider wishlisting. My love for horror games started quite possibly with Fear, Condemned Criminal Origins, and The Darkness. Even Crisis had some thrilling moments. While I wouldn't describe these as out-and-out horror experiences, they are more so horror mixed with action. Still, I think they had the elements that provided some of the best scary moments of my early gaming life. Then I played a game that would change my outlook on horror forever. A game called Jericho, Clive Barker's Jericho. While I won't get into it too much here, I'll just say this. It's gory, it's demonic, and it's bloody awesome. It's definitely a flawed game and it has many issues, yet I can remember almost every moment and mechanic. It stuck with me. It had some of the best horror world building I have ever experienced, even now. The game was just a bit of a broken mess, unfortunately. You can't find it on Steam anymore due to licensing issues, so if you ever see a copy in your local secondhand shop, grab it. Horror games have always held a unique place in my gaming heart and inventory, and I've always had a fondness for them. Yet, I've always been hesitant to go back to them. On the one hand, the thrills and scares they would provide had me somewhat hesitant to come back to their worlds, yet I felt a sense of incompletion when I would stay away. They always pulled me back. They always made me face that one terrifying monster that had me either so scared or so frustrated that I just had to quit for a bit. Doom 3 is a horror game, and quite a scary one. Well, it was. Young me would agree, especially when the lights are off and my brother is waiting behind the door trying to scare me at the exact right moment. Deadspace is a horror game, and utterly terrifying. I was older when it came out, yet it still held a sense of dread throughout the experience. I found myself yearning to return to its horror-filled world every chance I got. So these became my favorite horror experiences over time as I played them more and more and understood their worlds better. Around this time, I started experimenting with video game design and fundamentals, about 12 or so years ago. The worlds in these two games had me so enthralled and inspired. They contained so much detail and relevance to the setting, it was incredible to experience. Every prop and door placed with intent and meaning, every PDA and unique weapon laid out secretly to find, and every blood smear pointing to a bigger threat. It all came together with such meaning and inspired me so much, even if I didn't realize it then. And so, 10 or so years later, I started making my first commercial horror game. I had made many horror-themed prototypes and demos before, of varying quality and value, but nothing that I could or wanted to release. I still had so much growth to go through, and a lot of experiences to learn and earn. And so, roughly 2.5 years ago, I decided I was ready. I don't know exactly how I started, or remember what other projects I was busy with at the time, but as it often does for us indies, inspiration hit, regardless. So I started working on the game, and between then and now, a lot of progress has been made. It is, at this point, an entirely functional game with around 5 hours of gameplay. It is up on Steam right now on the autumn sale for a pretty cheap price if you're curious to check it out. It has all the systems and trappings that an FPS horror survival game would need, but there is still a lot I want to do with it, and a lot of content and systems that I plan to add. In the time the game has been in early access, I have added numerous features in many updates, and I am sporadically updating the game and will continue to do so. So let's get into the main categories of design in a sort of short summary here. I won't talk too much about these categories right now, as they have a dedicated devlog that I will make down the line, so I'll just summarize for now. First up, the gameplay. I wanted to have slower and more methodical gameplay in the vein of a Doom 3. You would have your normal survival elements and gameplay challenges, but also other elements like earning credits for kills, jumping puzzles, vitals and ammunition management, and very many secrets to be found. Players have liked these so far. Another element here is having to find certain keys to open certain doors, but the feature is lenient here, using a simple color-coded system for keys. So you'll have many opportunities to find the corresponding keys. Another system that I have made use of is a saving system that is similar to the bonfires in the Dark Souls series, but not exactly the same. There are also shops where you can purchase things with your earned credits. The game also has hundreds of PDAs to be found and read, detailing stories from those who didn't survive and tales of horror leading up to the events of the invasion. A lot of tweaking has gone into these systems and will still go into it until the right formula has been found. There is a lot more to talk about here, but I will do so in a follow-up devlog. Then, the level design and visuals. Basically, what you see. For the purpose of this video, I'm lumping these two together here, but they will get their own devlogs at some point. So, visuals first. The game looks unique. It has a style that I penned high-resolution pixelation. Now, I'm not the first to do this nor the best, but to be honest, I didn't draw inspiration from anything for this style. I made it up for the game specifically. Perhaps I did get ideas subconsciously somewhere, but I couldn't tell you where. The closest visual style that I can think of is Proteus. What a game, by the way. But I played that game long after I started making this game, many months after. So I don't know where the style came from, but it's one that I like. The game features a very specific color scheme, which works well with the volumetric fog and atmospheric lighting system that is featured in the game. I'll get into a lot more detail in the future with this system. Then the level design. The level design for this game is quite abstract. It varies in terms of scale and space. In some areas, you'll find yourself in a small dungeon-like hallway and rooms, and then in others, You'll be outside in vast outdoor deserts and jungles. It's all over the place, but it's so by design. The level design is relatively basic, but it's made that way by hand to fit the purpose of the gunplay and the combat. There are a lot of secrets to find and many new weapons and enemies to discover. In a future devlog, we will discuss my inspirations and get into detail around the design philosophy used here. Lastly, the audio, music, effects and voiceovers. The music for the game is made by my brother, Alwyn Ninaber, who also made the music for Death Rattle Hell Unleashed. We have gotten a lot of excellent feedback around it. The music is inspired by games like Quake, drawing Muse from Trent Reznor, but with some of its own neon personality. The music is designed to not get in the player's way, but always be present. The soundscape-like tracks bring a sense of longing and desperation to the game, and it works well. As for the sound effects and voiceovers, many of these are placeholder at the moment. Some of the sound effects are made by me, some by Alwyn, and some are from the Unity Asset Store. These will be replaced with our own ones down the line. At this point, the only final effects are the weapon audio effects. As for the voiceovers, these are also from in-house recordings right now and will be done professionally in the near future. We will talk more about these in another devlog. And then finally, enemies, combat and weaponry. Combat is relatively slow-paced, yet not sluggish. I would liken it to Doom 3 in terms of how it feels and looks. Enemies range from small insect-like creatures like flies and worms to humanoid zombie-like abominations and shrieking tall figures to large charging mammoth-like beasts. There is a big variety in enemy design. Each creature has its own set of challenges and values to overcome. Right now, combat is still quite basic, and I'm looking at introducing more variables and abilities in the future. Combat is fun, however, and can become quite challenging. As for gunplay, it feels a lot like Doom 3 in terms of handling and shooting, but also very unique. There is no reloading, but there is ammunition, which gives you another element to manage. Ammo can be quite hard to find, but you can also purchase it. There is a big variety in weapons, and while I won't spoil anything, I'll tell you that you'll be shooting pistols, shotguns, pulsers, rifles, grenades, lasers, and rockets at your foes. Each weapon also has a primary and secondary fire type, switching up the combat quite a lot. There is no traditional form of melee, but you are able to kick, which is great for managing crowds of small enemies and a good last resort for big ones. There is so much more to speak on here, so let's do that in another devlog. For now, just know combat is chaotic and fun. Of course, there are many other categories to speak on, things like menu systems, lore and story and interface. In the series of devlogs, I will cover everything from visual style to gameplay style to menu functionality to music and sounds to level design and location and everything in between. I plan to go back to previous sections and levels and make devlogs for each, explaining my processes and intentions at the time. The info that I gave here was just a quick overview, but there is so much more to talk about. The experiences I had with these two main games that I mentioned, Doom 3 and Deadspace, guided me so much in the initial development phases of my game, Operator8. And that's what this devlog videos series is going to be about. Operator8 and everything that led me to how I made it. Along the way, Operator8 has developed an identity and a lore of its own, but my inspirations are still very much present in the game. If this series is something you might be interested in, I implore you to follow along. As mentioned, I plan to add a lot of devlogs for this series, and I'm trying to generate some interest for my game. Thank you for watching the video. If you're interested in wishlisting, the link will be in the description below. The game has been doing well in terms of reception, with all 18 of its reviews being positive. Also, I know that many of my new subscribers have joined due to the previous few videos involving the Kingsfield inspired game that I'm also working on. Don't worry, that game is going nowhere. Hopefully those of you that I'm talking about might find some interest in this game too. I'm the type of developer that will always work on multiple projects. It's just how I'm wired. I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Happy hunting.